Welcome to this episode of Living and Working Abroad show. We're doing it from my mobile office today, so welcome. Um, the reason being, just quite a shocking morning I've had in terms of the news that's been revealed, and why you don't need to own everything to enjoy it. Uh, and there are always some complications that arise if you're sick, if you're ill, if you die. Uh, then there's a cost and delay in the probate and administration of your assets, to transfer those assets, to liquidate them, turn them into cash, to look after your next of kin. So if you've got a spouse, you've got children, you've got taxes to pay, you've got a business to run, protect it well, and because you don't need the whole asset in your name to be able to enjoy it. We're coming up to a budget in the UK, and next week we're going to cover that in a bit more detail and look at actually what is actually going to come out and work and come alive in that budget as a sort of preview. There's not a lot of time to do much before then, uh, but for some extra ideas today and next week, follow us at the Living Working Abroad show on our YouTube channel. So, if you own a property in your name, and if it's in joint names and one of you dies, then you have to go through a will, a probate, or die without a will and intestate, and go through a probate process to get your asset shared to somebody else. That will be a cost, a delay. There's inheritance tax returns which need to be done, which could cost you 40%. All to maintain the people that own the property or want to benefit from the property as your heirs and beneficiaries. If you make a will, you've still got to go through that probate process. The probate process, especially when you're living and working abroad, can be all the more complex. A ProAct generally advise you to have one will per jurisdiction, but if you want to go to the next stage, there's actually additional work you can take now to protect yourself and your family from capital, income, and expense of the inconvenience of losing your health or losing your life. Just to clarify on that point, when you die, um, obviously you have to go through a court process to prove that you died and who your beneficiaries are. If there is no will, then the law of the land will determine who will benefit, which may be your children, it may be your spouse, but in some countries a spouse doesn't inherit, in other countries a spouse does inherit. In some countries, forced heirship goes automatically to children, and in other countries, not necessarily so. So it's different scenarios for different countries um, that um, different scenarios for different countries, for different people, and different circumstances. So it pays to have in place a proper will to make sure the people that you want to benefit from your estate do so. But then, the second point is that what if you lose your health? Um, if you lose your mental capacity to act and make decisions, then if there's no power of attorney in place, then you have to go through a court process again to appoint somebody to be responsible to make the decisions for your life, your assets during your lifetime, and then on your death. So it's additional expense. So you can do a power of attorney, get that in place while you're living, and a UK power of attorney for financial and medical reasons can work very well um, for expats in that they can have it fully administratively processed in the UK and apostilled for living and working abroad in other jurisdictions. For more help and information and guidance on planning and protecting your family in the case you lose your health, contact us at propartnership.com. But what about your overseas property that you enjoy? It's in a foreign country with maybe foreign rules where there's forced heirship and it's got to be divided up in a particular way, or there could be additional taxes, capital, inheritance taxes involved, or the cost and delay of a probate administration. How can you do that? Well, in English law, one of the ways to do that is to do a trust. Um, in a jurisdiction where you can hold a trust, that allows you to hold assets, which could be company shares, it could be a property, it could be a real estate property, but it also could be a work of art, it could be a valuable car, it could be a valuable arts collection. Whatever you want can be owned by the trust. A trust is a tax entity in its own right. It's not a company, uh, it could be a charity, but a trust is a taxable entity in its own right. Uh, Normally, when you hear of trust, you're thinking about an investment trust, a pension trust, or a charitable trust, where the trust arrangement organises that for the benefit of the beneficiaries of the pension, beneficiaries of the charity, the beneficiaries of the investment. You can set up your own family trust for the benefit of the people in your family. And if you don't particularly want family to be involved, you can actually nominate other people as well. So some people might set up a trust to own their assets during their lifetime, and then the beneficiary is a charity, or it could be a benevolent donation, a grant to a school or to a foundation, for whatever you want to do. Your family trust can have that arrangement for the long-term benefit of the people that you want to benefit, wherever you are living and working abroad, and whatever the asset. For more information and guidance, contact us at prioricpartnership.com. Now, the the trusts are part of English law, so we're having to set these up in the UK or in a jurisdiction like Cyprus. We like to use Cyprus as our European office because in Cyprus there's no inheritance tax and there's no capital gains tax other than on Cyprus real estate. So Cyprus is a very good low tax country where you can avoid inheritance tax, capital gains tax, and there's no dividends on investments either. So that's 0%. So it's a very tax efficient way for people with wealth to own their assets. The trust is a tax entity. So if your property, your investments, or your shares are owned by uh, the Cyprus Trust, the Cyprus Trust is paying the tax. Zero inheritance tax, zero capital gains, zero dividend tax. So it can be very efficient, even if you as an individual are living in another jurisdiction. What about your property? What about your real estate that you're living in? It's the most expensive thing to run. It's the most expensive thing to dispose of, and everybody wants to share of it. It's the hardest thing to divide up, potentially. Again, if the property is in trust, the trust owns it, and then uh, the people that benefit from it can be you during your lifetime, your widower on your first death, or it can be your children and your grandchildren beyond that. When I say that for a real estate property, it's not just property, it could be for business shares and investments or other valuables as well, and royalties. So when you see that you've got an investment trust or a pension trust, it's entirely feasible. That's what you've got. It's a very efficient way to organise your affairs long term. The professionals use it, you can use it for your family, and it avoids probate, and it avoids inheritance taxes, and it avoids the cost and delay of probate, and it avoids family disputes. So, if you want more information about a family trust for owning overseas property or UK property or investments or shares, contact us at prioricpartnership.com. So, our purpose is that you don't need to own the property to be able to enjoy it. Um, if you have an overseas property, you've got the cost of maintaining it and managing it during your life. If that is owned by you as an individual, then you've got the cost and delay of probate in that foreign jurisdiction. That law may not be associated with British law. and it may not want to be distributed in the way you want. So if you've got family issues with stepchildren, um, second marriages, first marriages, whatever, or special needs children that have their own health trust in place, all those things can be catered for within a family trust. But on death, the trustees, which again can be the family members, they just sit round and they agree what the next step is. So Rupert Murdoch has his family trust, and the family are the trustees. They are the board of trustees. They manage the family's wealth, the family's assets for Rupert Trust and his new Rupert Murdoch Family Trust with its Sky News Corporation assets around the world. So you can do that if you oversee. So if you buy an overseas property in a jurisdiction which is not uh, 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 familiar or supportive of what your needs are for your family inheritance, then the trust can do that, but also it can survive you. So if you want your grandchildren to benefit from your wealth, from the wealth that you've created, saved, or built up, and not to pay it in 40% inheritance tax to Rachel Reeves, or not to pay it in other capital gains taxes or expensive probate lawyer fees, then put the assets in a trust and manage them for your family's benefit during your lifetime, for the benefit of your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, and down the generations. For more information and guidance, contact us at privatepartnership.com. One of the best examples from a British perspective of a family trust is the Westminster, Duke of Westminster. This all started off with Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, um, who was so gratefully rewarded by the King George for seeing off Napoleon that he became a very wealthy man. And the Duke of Westminster estate includes Belgravia and parts of Mayfair in London, the richest real estate in London. Duke of Westminster is not the richest man in Britain. Uh, he used to be in the top 10, but what the family is, he doesn't own the assets, but he's the sole beneficiary of the assets. So the eldest son is the beneficiary of that estate. I'm in the mobile office, get a bit of a beep from a closed transaction. So the Duke of Westminster, if you want to see what your family trust could be in the future, then have a look at that. Have a look at that estate and see what that does for that family down the generations. Um, 200 years later, the family is still benefiting from those assets um, very, very well. Contact us at Product Partnership. We can help and guide you. The family stays in control. Yes, you have to move. You have to do a property conveyance now to do that. Uh, but it, you do that without the additional expense of going through the probate process. Any probate is going to take at least a year to administer, so we can do that a lot quicker by getting it into trust, and then there's no transition time once the mourning period is finished. For help and advice guidance of putting assets into trust as a separate tax entity for the family to manage across border and down generations, contact us at privatepartnership.com. Thanks a lot for listening and join us again next time.